He is a wise man that does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for which he has. In this game, we get to see the use of fighting for the long diagonals. Both myself and Tomcat fight hard for both the primary and the secondary long diagonals in this game, both white and black. So let's get into it. So I start off with the English opening. I'm trying to use this flank pawn in order to remain flexible on the board so that I can play the d4, the e4, the knight c3, the knight g3, or even a g3 at any point in time. Just want to see how my opponent opens, and I enjoy this position difference from the tactical aggression of that e-pawn opening. So I play c4. He starts off with the g6 move. He's looking to develop this bishop along that long diagonal, the longest dark square diagonal on the board for black, or longest dark square diagonal. I play g3. I'm looking to do the same thing. Let's get this bishop up. Let's get this bishop out, capture those light squares, use that c4 pawn to help me do so. He plays bishop g7. I play knight c3. Now here we see that the pawn and the knight is going to work together to kick these light squares, as well as that light squared bishop whenever it pops up. He plays knight f6. I play bishop g2. Neither one of us know what we're doing. Neither one of us know the English opening. We just have a concept of what it is we're trying to do here, and it just happens to be, for a few moves, we follow book. So I play this knight up to f3 because I'm looking to capture, or I'm looking to control these e5 and e4 square. He brings knight c6. A moment ago, I was looking for e4, e5, or sorry, d4, e5, and now his knight is looking to contest that. So while my knight's looking to control, his knight's looking to contest. I play that d4 pawn, specifically because I want to suppress that e4 pawn, that e5 pawn from coming up and out. So I use the d4 pawn and the knight to work together to capture that square, or to control it. He plays e6. I castle quickly. He plays a d6. So my goal here is to, one, I want to weaken his strength on this d5 square with this pin. That's where that pawn is less likely to come up. And if it does, it's going to create a weakness here on e5 later on, where I can potentially drop a pawn or drop a piece onto that square. But more importantly, what I'm actually looking to do is to create a structural weakness. I want him to push this h pawn to h6 so that now I can create a weakness. I can draw this bishop back to e3, pull the queen back behind that bishop and form a battery so that now we can go and attack his h6 pawn and infiltrate his king side. He pushes the pawn just the way that I wanted to. And I don't know what happened. I lost a thread. I made a blunder. I completely forgot my plan. Whatever the case was, I did it. I created this weakness inside of his king side so that I could exploit. But when I go to pull the bishop back, for some reason, I pull it back too far. Right? This was not a mouse slip. I was not playing online. This was over the board. So I don't know what happened. Now the plan of sliding that queen back behind that bishop becomes a little bit more cumbersome because now I'm going to cause some congestion back here. But he pulls the knight back. I push the pawn, forsaking my ideal of dropping that queen back behind that bishop so that I can run that as a battery. He brings knight over to b6. Now clearly he's attacking this c4 pawn, and I could very easily pull the queen up to defend the pawn. However, for some reason during the game, I went into complete defense mode and started making mistakes, in my opinion here. I played pawn to b3, and the reason why I see this as a mistake is notice this dark squared sniper back here. This dark squared bishop is waiting, and I am strengthening these dark squares by moving things off of it. So now this knight does not have the support that it once had when that pawn was there. I'm weakening my own pieces, and now potentially this bishop is going to be x-raying my rook down here. I'm weakening my own position instead of very simply pulling the queen up to guard the pawn. He pulls rook over. He tells me later on that what he's attempting to do is he wants to prevent me from having any light squared tactics here. So he's afraid of pins. He's afraid of skewers. He's afraid of potentially just dropping that rook. So he moves that rook off that light square diagonal. I pull the rook over. Notice that this dark squared bishop was once attacking or x-raying that rook. Now I pull that rook over so the rook can now work on this C file where I anticipate opening that file. So now that rook, that tank, will be able to have control of that road once it opens up. He plays rook over. He's attempting to do the same thing. He wants to open up this E file. So he wants to put this rook, this tank, on that potentially opening file so that he can control that road that may eventually lead into my camp. I push the pawn. Again, it seems like I'm helping him. One, I'm trying to help him open this file for that rook. And two, I'm clearly opening up this dark square diagonal for that bishop. Not playing it the best at this moment, in my opinion. He pulls knight down. So we see here that both these knights are attacking this one d4, d5 pawn, whereas my knight, there's only one defender for that pawn. So what I do is I want to be able to utilize my dark squared bishop to contest his dark squared bishop, because it's going to be a problem if I let it stay there. So I pull that bishop back to reveal the queen as another defender for that pawn. He captures. When he does so, it's perfect, because what I see is now this dark square diagonal belongs to me, as well as he's weakened this h6 pawn. There's nothing defending these dark squares around his king. Forget the pawns. We're focused on the squares. He takes. When he takes this a2 pawn, I don't care about that rook. I want and need this dark squared bishop. So while pulling the queen up would allow me to build this battery so that I'm playing for checkmate here, and then it forces him to come around and take that bishop, thus I don't lose the rook. I lose my biggest asset. So I pull the bishop back. He takes the rook happily. So now I see it as I own these dark squares. They are mine. The squares around his king belong to me. He material hunts. He's getting greedy. He's taking pawns now, and in doing so, he will be punished for it. My thought behind moving the rook over is I'm going to bring my last piece into the fight before I begin this attack. If we look, his rook and his bishop are out of play. His queen is not in this fight. And now I'm pulling my last piece into the fight, using my bishop to occupy the squares next to his king, soon revealing the queen to come down there and attack more dark squares where it will be supported by the queen and the knight, by the bishop and the knight. He pushes the pawn to reinforce the knight. Now I get to push. So I push that pawn up, revealing that queen so the queen can be supported by that bishop. We're playing on these dark squares. His rook takes. Check this out. Notice that the rook and the knight are both on light squares. This is dangerous, and the reason being is that he has 1, 2, 3 pieces that are not active, which means that he only has these two, the knight and the rook, that are active, whereas I have the knight, the bishop, the queen, and the rook that are active. And now my only inactive piece, that light squared bishop, is aiming at his 2 active pieces. So I can eliminate his active pieces with my inactive pieces, thus increasing the chance of me being able to take home the victory here. I use that queen to immediately come down and break into the camp. And so now we're threatening checkmate on 2 different squares here. He uses the knight to block me out. So he's blocking my dark squared bishop from assisting my queen with this checkmate. I bring the knight in, rallying another piece, and while simultaneously this knight comes in, it reveals that light squared bishop's attack on that rook. He sees it and he moves the rook out of the way. No matter though, I bring the knight in, and here I'm trying to remove this defender. Notice that if this knight moves anywhere, the bishop and the queen are going to come together again on that dark square. So if he plays here, I get to play that mate. He doesn't. He plays the rook over. I capture. He brings the knight. So now notice that this knight is unfortunately covering this G7 spot, and then my own knight is betraying me by blocking off that H8 square where I could land the other mate. So I get the knight out of the way. I'm using the knight as a blockade to block his queen out of the fight so that my queen and my bishop can work together. Even if he decides to block this, he doesn't. He takes it, and now I'll get that checkmate here. But even if he decides to block this here, now my knight can run rampant back here, and I can begin to tear apart his enemy camp while his rook and his bishop are still nowhere close to being in this fight. My pieces will come together. Notice now that this knight is hanging.